Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning into my tarot channel. My name is Paulina and I'm a psychic medium and intuitive, clairvoyant, clairaudient, and I'm an astrologer and tarot card reader. So I have a couple messages, and I also just want to say, just again as a misnomer, that anyone who writes something that I don't like, it doesn't matter if you think it's like fair or acceptable or whatever, I just will delete it and also not respond, because I don't like debates. I don't like fights on the internet. I don't like to get into it with people. I'm entitled to my opinion. And also, this is my space, and I see it as taking out trash, like deleting things that don't look pretty on my page. So yeah, so you can do that if you want, but you're wasting your energy. And if I don't delete it that day, it will eventually be deleted and just never responded to. And it really just makes you look like a sourpuss kind of nasty person, doesn't it? Picking up off of that energy, I feel like there's some people around you who are, or maybe someone around you who is like challenging your stance. And I'm also getting that you are someone who is in a maybe an in-between place, between roads, between choices. Our first card is the Fool reversed. This could be about a fear of starting again, a fear of, which way do I go? What do I do? Also, like, not being able to follow that impulse. We got Temperance. I feel like you have to remember there's people around you who don't understand your trauma or your experiences, but also that works reflexively. There's people whose trauma you don't understand, and there's people who you simply just won't see their point of view. And it becomes hard when we're comparing traumas, because people, once you start talking that way, people want to say mine's worse. And I think that's fair, because that's like an impulse. It's a human impulse to say what's worse. That's the worst and what's the best. But I claim my trauma and I claim my experiences. Do you? They're mine. I've had things happen to me that's freaking sucked, especially living with alopecia, and that's my truth and that's my reality. And I'm not sure what your truth is, but I'm feeling like there's something that other people are saying, oh, it's not that hard, it's not that big of a deal, you're making too much of it. And you're like, no, it's literally a huge deal, and it's like a chronic thing that's taken over my whole life. I feel like that's some energy I have here with you. I think that there was a relationship that you walked away. They weren't giving you something that you needed, so you had to walk away. And also, you may be in a place where you're not financially sound, But the King of Pentacles reverse can also be about just a feeling of not feeling in control of where you are in the world. There's so many women on here who, because I'm posting this TikTok on YouTube, who love to post things like, people ask me where I get my skincare routine, and they say, 38, I can't believe it. And it's like so funny, because they don't realize how ridiculous they sound, that they sound like narcissists who, I don't know, are wanting us to think they are special. I think I'm saying that because I think you're surrounded by possibly a narcissistic energy, maybe some narcissistic people who care about image, care about external values, care about what things look on the outside rather than the inside. And I think at a certain point in that relationship card that I picked up, you saw them as something that you were both maybe working towards a goal together, maybe financially. Then there was a huge disappointment because you couldn't work together. Why couldn't you work together? So I'm guessing you had plans with this person, maybe financial plans in some way, or maybe you worked together, but there was some under the belt stuff here. There was some like secrecy, lies, something you didn't know. And I think you sensed that you didn't know it. I think you sensed there was some deception here, some masking, and some ill will. And you walked away from this situation. But I think the narcissism word that came up, I know it's such a like coined word in our culture, and I brought it up in terms of social media. Really, those women, they are beautiful. The women who are like, I don't look 38, and I'm more concerned about their psyches, like that they're so obsessed with mentioning their age and talking about what people are saying about their skin. You know? Like, I'm more concerned that they're like walking away, which is what this card is, from something, from some internal self-recognition, you know, instead of looking for that validation outside. See me, tell me I'm pretty, know me, hear my pain, to validate it yourself, is what I'm saying here in the reading. So that's really hard to do. Okay. What else does Spirit want us to know about this reading? This being surrounded by narcissists who don't, it sounds like they're gaslighting you and not validating you. Maybe this has been going on for a long time, maybe with several people. And I think these are the kind of narcissistic people, like those people that post, because they're concerned with things that are outside, and maybe you are quite attractive and it's threatening to these people. Maybe you have talents or skills that are scary or different, and they don't understand, and it's I'm feeling like you're being pushed out of situations. I'm feeling a lot of push outs. 3 reversed. You know, I was thinking of the game Red Rover, where you play when you're kids. You line up in 2 rows on either side, and you hold hands in chains, and then you say Red Rover, send Scotty, Red Over, whatever the name is. And then they send over, and they try to break through the chain of like the human chain. It's a really stupid game, but like, I think that game is being brought up because I think that there's something here in that energy is like, you're feeling like the universe is calling upon you because you're being asked to speak, and you've been hiding, I think, for a long time because you're different. Okay, and I'm also thinking every like micro thought I have, I try to take very seriously during a reading. I'm thinking of, this is about charity and giving. Thinking about the movie What's Eating Gilbert Grape. What a great film. I don't know if you've seen it. It's one of Leonardo DiCaprio's early films, who I love because he's a Scorpio, of course. But there's also the main character who's like really dishy and cute. I forget his name. Was it Johnny Depp in that movie? I forget the name of the main character. Anyway, I mean the actor. But I think, what's her name? There's another famous actress that I like in that movie, but whatever, it doesn't matter. It's about like this sort of effed up family, and the mother is dying of obesity, and there's this son that has like mental health issues, and Gilbert Grape is the main character, and it's sort of like a story of all this dysfunction in his family's happening, but he like finds his peace and joy within that dysfunction, you know? So what's eating him is the situation external, his family. He can't control, his mom is like dying. He can't control, his brother has these issues. He can't control the poverty they're in. But he finds this love, Juliette Lewis, I believe, and it changes his life. So it's sort of like, the title's kind of like, you're supposed to think, in my mind it's like, or it's a title that's supposed to make you think. It's like, what really is eating any of us? We all have these external issues, you know? We all have the human condition, but fortune. I'm getting a strong like hit right now, like a lot of voices, guides telling me that you need to stop compare and contrasting. There's people who maybe have been in your life for a long time who are like that, and that's not your vibe. I don't want you to do that. You're on your own path. You know, you have your own life, and I'm feeling also a lot of people maybe wanting to press their ideas of what you should do onto you. Maybe not just friends, maybe also, I mean, maybe not just family, also friends, people you've known, and that's called projective identification, when we think that someone else wants what we want. That's not good. So really the theme here is finding your own path. I'm gonna do, disappointment again. So just to quickly end with, I'm obsessed with ducks right now and reading them where they're sitting on the pond as part of my reading in the mornings. And so today they were spaced out. There were 3, and then there was a space of like 3 feet, and then there were 2, and then there was another space of 3 feet, and then there were 2. I'm pretty sure it's so that they can like hunt for like fish or whatever, clams or whatever they eat in pairs. And like be like spaced out so that they can, like, you know, get more ground. Also probably it has to do with like territorial stuff about that, but also probably as a group, when they're spaced out, a predator coming could be seen more easily. So there's multiple reasons. But I mentioned the spacing was very specific between the ducks. It was about like 3 feet between each of them, and I just thought it was interesting, and I thought of biological reasons why that might be happening. And I think that you need some space from these other voices, and to listen to the voice within, to the still small voice within, which is from the Bible. And also know thyself, which is from the tribes of Delphi. And many people don't know that the Oracle of Delphi, her visions came from actually an ethylene gas that came through the fault, like the crack in the rock in the cave she was in. I don't think that lessens the validity of her visions, but I think maybe there's that's coming up because maybe there's something you're engaging with, like, I don't know if it's a substance or even just like a toxic energy, toxic person, toxic vibe, toxic place. Could just be a store that you go to. Some stores have awful situations, bad, abusive situations that you need to not be around. But also being around these sort of toxic situations is making you have a vision for what you do want. There's also Plato's cave, which is it's an allegory about a man who's chained to a wall and can only see shadows on a wall instead of reality. And he learns to know only the things in his mind that he's made up about those shadows rather than the external world. And that's really a metaphor for what we all do and how we augment what is and change the nature of things and make it worse or better. And that's what I like about Zen, is it's more focused on what is now, what really is now. And I'll tell you, one time I went to see a Zen master years ago with 2 friends at a monastery in New York City, and I noticed I kept asking what he was going to do next once he left and what his plans were, because he was only there for a year. And he said, I don't know. The only thing that's happening is that you and I are here together right now. And then he asked me my goals, and his silence made me feel like my goals were trivial and ridiculous. Those goals mattered. Those goals were important. But he was trying to tell me with his silence that there's inner goals. There's goals that we meet on our own intuitively and spiritually that matter more. So, and then he told me to come back and worship and do the sort of prayer stuff that they do, but I was not into any organized stuff then, so I didn't come back. But maybe that keyword worship there is something. I feel like maybe you need to worship yourself because you've been really worshiping someone else who hasn't been there for you. And that's really the key end point of this reading, which has been all over the place. You need space. You need to understand sort of your own mind right now. And you need to quiet the voices of other people having their opinions. One of my favorite Native American sort of isms is to just do nothing. And I'm not saying it how it should be said, but it's also just like not interfere, which is, there's other things like Taoism and Buddhism, Hinduism even, but like just for a while, just for today, just let life happen, just how it is right now, and see where that takes you.